No, I'm pretty sure it's Cry Little Sister when they're banging. Where's the kid? Where's the 9-year-old boy?
He's under the bed about to vamp out.
Yeah, totes.
No, but he's not a 9-year-old boy.
Right.
He's a 10-year-old boy. He's been a vampire for a year. It's much better for a 10-year-old boy.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass. We're gonna die.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when growing up really that good? Have you caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday nights searching for the perfect movie at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am your host, Roger Roper, the Raj, alongside my host, Dick Ebert.
Hello, Roger. How are you?
We'll take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. Each week, the audience selects from 4 movie choices that we then break out our race car VHS rewinder and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. Occasionally, a special guest will join us to break down the craziness that was filmmaking in the 1980s and 90s. Today, we have a very special guest. Let me be the first to welcome Gene Lyons to the podcast. Gene.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm very honored to be here.
Yes, Gene is here tonight because the movie that the audience picked for us to review was the 1987 classic, The Lost Boys. Gene is a self-proclaimed goth kid and vampire expert.
That's correct. I grew up here in the sunny confines of Arizona, where a lot of people wonder, how could there be a goth scene? And really, when you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world. It's very sunny. It's very hot. We can only come out at night and pursue our carnal pleasures then.
So that's the movie that we'll be reviewing tonight. But before we dive into that, we have reviews. Each week, we read a review from iTunes or an email that you can email us at hosts@shatthemovies.com. Big D, where is our review from today?
Well, we got another one from iTunes, a 5-star from JBones49, who says, the best part of his week. Love every single episode. 2 great, engaging hosts that help relive the movies that we thought were great, but probably weren't. Look forward to the rewatch each week. Keep up the good work. So thank you, JBone49.
Thanks, JBone49. The best way that we can grow our podcasts and move up the ranks on iTunes. There's a ton of movie review podcasts, and we think we got something going well here, Big D. But the fastest way that we can move up the charts is through iTunes reviews. So if you have the means necessary, please go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review and a comment. We'll make sure to read that.
Also, I want to jump back in. Roger mentioned that each week the listeners pick the movies. So we got a little dilemma this week. I threw up there 4 for the viewers to pick, and I chose Predator. I've had it up there almost every week, and nobody seems to vote on it, so damn it, I'm going to force it down your throat. Die Hard, Goonies, and then I threw in there a movie I enjoyed, Armageddon. Now, I want you to explain, Roger, why you feel Armageddon, even though it's within our time range, should not be included.
Well, I think you just said it right there. Speaking of shoving it down your throat, Armageddon's the worst movie ever made.
This is not a dictatorship. People speak.
Listen, all I'm saying is that if the voters would just go back to 1984 and pick any of those films, I would much rather enjoy that than any Michael Bay film, and that includes The Rock.
Well, we'll see what the people say.
All right, so this movie, The Lost Boys, gentlemen, is a 1987 American horror comedy film. I don't know, like it stars it stars some amazing people that you remember from your childhood. Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Kiefer Sutherland, Jami Gertz, Corey Feldman, Dianne Wiest, and Alex Winter, who is from Bill and Ted. He's Bill from Bill and Ted.
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't ever really I remember this movie from my childhood. I don't think I actually ever watched the movie from start to finish in one sitting.
Yeah, I do remember seeing it, and I remember thinking how cool California looked and how cool it would be to have long hair and ride dirt bikes on the beach and to drink and to go to music festivals with hot dudes, saxophones, getting my ear pierced. It spoke to me. I wanted to go west. What do you remember, Gene?
Basically, everything in this movie shaped my young adult life. I wanted all of it. It all looked so cool. It all still looks so cool. I watched it twice this week just to see if it had been cool. And here's the crazy thing is that all the things that I remembered were then echoed in pretty much every modern vampire movie that came after that. And so it just got reinforced. That opening scene when they're sweeping over the water going onto the boardwalk, that is so Interview with the Vampire opening scene. I mean, you see it all over the place in almost every vampire movie that's been made that portrays vampires in the 19th or 20th century.
I have a problem with this, though. In the following vampire movies, whether it's Twilight, whether it's Interview with the Vampire, we get the ground rules. We find out what are the rules. What can you do? What can't you do? What kills the vampires? What don't? I felt this movie failed to lay the groundwork, so I never knew what was possible, how to kill them, what they could do, who'd show up in a mirror, who could be killed by holy water. I didn't know. I didn't like it.
I feel like maybe with each rental, they should have given you a comic book copy of Vampires Among Us, so you could actually look at that and know what all the rules were. But I think more importantly, though, is that, you know, every time I go and I watch a Batman movie or a Superman movie, I get so pissed that they've got to do the origin story all over again. So I was actually thankful that they were just like, look, you know what vampires are. Let's rock and roll.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is Joel Schumacher made a conscious decision to go straight to shirtless men and montages of men looking at other men as quickly as possible. So he avoided the whole vampire origin story by just introducing comic books and assuming the audience knew what the rules were. It makes sense now why Joel Schumacher completely destroyed the whole Batman franchise after watching this movie. Gene and Dick, you both have older sisters. Did they worship this movie? Because there were a lot of teen hunks and Teen Beat and Tiger Beat magazines that graced the screen.
No, my sister was not into these guys. You know, she had me on my bicycle stalking Matt Dillon. So she was not into Jason Patric, either the Coreys, Kiefer Sutherland. It was only Matt Dillon for her. So I was watching the Outsiders, not this.
Yeah, my sister was one cross short of a convent, so she just wasn't interested in men at all growing up.
She was more into the Witches of Eastwick.
No, not even that. She was into scripture and doing well at school.
So 1987 in film was a terrible year for movies, for at least from an artistic perspective. The number one movie in 1987 was Three Men and a Baby. The number two movie was Fatal Attraction. Rounding out the rest of the top 10, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Good Morning Vietnam, Moonstruck, Untouchables, Secret of My Success, Stakeout, Lethal Weapon, and The Witches of Eastwick. This movie did not even touch the top 10.
This was a down year. Did you like any of the top 10 you listed?
The only movie that comes close is, in my opinion, The Untouchables, because it's a period piece and it still holds up. Also, I invoke the Sean Connery rule, where anything with Sean Connery ultimately is amazing.
I absolutely hate any period piece pretty much that came out in the 80s. They were all god-awful. It was like they weren't removed enough from the subject matter to understand what the hell was going on, I think, and they try to aidify everything, which I did not like. I really enjoyed Fatal Attraction. I thought that movie kicked all kinds of ass, and I think you mentioned Lethal Weapon in there, too, which was, I think, phenomenal.
My problem with 80s movies, everyone still had mullets. Business in the front, party in the rear.
Well, much like a vampire, the mullet is the hairstyle that will not die. They've been around forever. They will be around forever. And they only get stronger the older they are. I will agree, though, absolutely, Dick, that 87 was no 84 when it comes to movies.
So The Lost Boys, directed by Joel Schumacher, is terrible. Here's the trailer.
Michael and Sam have just moved to Santa Carla, California. They're about to discover its secret.
Notice anything unusual about Santa Carla yet?
No. It's a pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire?
Your brother, Sammy, help me!
Stay back! Stay back!
What's happening, movie star?
Get yourself a good sharp steak. Drive it right through his heart.
You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a damn blood-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
When a vampire buys it, it's never a pretty sight.
Michael, they're coming! Oh, shit!
So Lost Boys, the plot of the film is about two Arizona brothers who move to California and end up fighting a gang of young vampires. The title is in reference to the Lost Boys in J. Barrie's stories about Peter Pan and Neverland, who, like the vampires, never grow up. So the whole movie, gentlemen, is based around the concept that these young teenage vampires never want to grow up. That's why they're attracted to the vampire lifestyle, to where they can just be young, dress in leather vests, and ride dirt bikes on the California seashore. Every vampire who was supposed to be a teenager looked like they were in their mid to late 30s.
Wow, you're getting real fired up there, aren't you, Raj? I want to start off with a little disclaimer. I'm going to have a theory about the true statement that this movie is making and what Joel was trying to get across. I don't want to offend anyone, but my take might be controversial. I do not judge anyone for their lifestyle choice. I embrace diversity, so please, no hate mail, but my theory might offend some people, so I hope it doesn't. Did you think this movie was about vampires?
No, I thought it was about MTV and the two Coreys.
So my theory about this movie is it's less about vampires and more about lifestyle choices. I feel Sam is clearly a young gay boy, fairly comfortable in his sexuality. They move to California, and we'll see Michael, who is heterosexual, challenged by what he believes and what he's attracted to by the group of Lost Boys, who I think represents homosexuality. And as we go forward, I'll point out throughout the movie how there's clear instances where Michael isn't so much being tempted to the dark side as he is tempted to an alternate lifestyle. Did you pick up any of that, or am I crazy?
I definitely picked up a lot of instances where men, like, they kept trying to goad Michael into a certain lifestyle. And there were definitely moments where I looked at myself and I said, would there really be a shirtless, muscular man mouthing the saxophone that hard, yelling, "I believe"? And also, would Sam be that afraid of his closet if there wasn't something going on that he didn't want to tell his parents? And would he be that afraid of his taxidermist grandfather bringing in animals to his nightstand? But the biggest thing for me that made me question were the half-naked posters of Rob Lowe on his wall in his room. I mean, this is a 13-year-old boy, right? This is where his sexual awakening happens. And I just didn't get the fact that why would you have a shirtless Rob Lowe? Listen, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you might want to call it out.
There are many instances where Sam is clearly open about his sexuality. You're talking the bubble bath. Now, the bubble bath is big, where he's proudly singing, "I Ain't Got a Man," and he's thinking about the beach performance, but he's also wearing a T-shirt that says "Born to Shop." He also receives the taxidermy gifts from his grandfather, who represents macho, manly action. And he gives him these stuffed animals to try to toughen him up. And what does Sam do? But Sam takes them and puts them in the closet next to his Rob Lowe poster. He's clearly proud of who he is, and he is not gonna change for grandpa or anybody. But Michael Michael, on the other hand, he could go either way.
I think the other big question that I have to say here is, can a coastal town truly support itself by the only commerce in the town being a video rental store, a comic book store, and a half-run-down amusement park?
You forgot there's also the shops to get your ear pierced. That's a big business. Hair braiding. I think that could sustain a California coastal town.
Having lived in Northern California for 5 years, absolutely. There are towns in California where I have no idea how they stay around. And I think really what it is that the people who live in town, I mean, the real estate is so expensive that they got to have some money, and they have that money and they spend it in town on whatever the hell is available. And you're allowed to stay there because everyone who's there owns, so they're not getting kicked out anywhere. California coastal towns make no fucking sense at all. I can't count how many times I've been to an authentic New York deli or pizza shop in a California coastal town that sucked absolute dick.
But let's dive into this, gentlemen. So the movie opens, like you said, Gene, with a sweeping panoramic swoop into the shot of a amusement park with a merry-go-round and a wooden roller coaster that we come to grow as the town of Santa Carla. Not Santa Clara, guys, because someone would get sued. Because Santa Carla is apparently the murder capital of the world, right? But we don't know that at this point because all they're showing is young MTV viewers enjoying themselves at the carnival. I think they're on the merry-go-rounds. Is that correct?
They're on the merry-go-round, and it's the first time that we meet the Lost Boys. And they're accosting people on the merry-go-round. They're trying to kiss a girl. And they make the acquaintance of the local overweight Paul Blart mall cop who decides to tell him to get off the boardwalk, kicks him off. And I don't think that works too well. But Santa Clara, besides having their rundown amusement park and being the murder capital, they also have homeless kids eating out of dumpsters. Gene, in your California experience, is that something common?
Yes, the California climate is actually quite conducive to eating out of dumpsters. I'm also a bit of an expert on what I call bird fooding. I have a hard time passing by any sort of food that's free and left over by other people. And so I've been known to not eat out of a dumpster, but I see where they're coming from. You're in a temperate climate. The food is probably preserved in a way from the sea spray, and so therefore it makes sense. But it is interesting that you point that out, that they do this weird, in these opening scenes, they do this weird Doors music montage where they're talking about how strange. Oh God, are we going to get into that later? I'm sorry.
No, keep going. No, just keep going.
All right, cool. All right. They get into this strange Doors thing, and I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't tell if they were trying to be scary, if we're supposed to be scared by these strange characters or eating out of dumpsters and hanging out on the boardwalk with their pets and all that, or if it's supposed to be like, oh, this is a really cool place. Look at all these cool weird kids.
This is what this town does. They go to the boardwalk, they try and fuck with each other, and then eventually people get eaten. That seems to be the only thing that happens in this town.
Would it have been too much to ask to see the Lost Boys flying?
I think
or would that have ruined it? Because we're dealing with 1987 special effects. I already am bothered by the Twilight series where they show them running up the trees, and it looks terrible. I can imagine Kiefer Sutherland flying in 1987 special effects, how bad it would have looked.
So one of the things I thought about with that is maybe they're not flying so much as apparating a la Death Eater. Like they're not, you wouldn't be able to see them floating around. They're just kind of like zipping through the ether and then landing and being like, we're here.
So I kind of like this B-roll footage that they have. And then with, of course, Cry Little Sister playing at every opportune time.
Well, if they could fly, why the hell do they bother with the motorcycles? It seems like a bit of a waste.
I thought about that at length, Dick, and here's the thing, is riding motorcycles is very fun. They're Lost Boys. They want to have a good time. Flying around, that's work.
Right. Well, I feel like you can only fly it. I feel like flying takes away a lot from your vampire powers. I feel like they only flew when they were about to eat.
I think it's all imagery. When you fly, they got to stay covert. They can't let people see them. You can't be cool when you're hidden. When you're wearing those beautiful leather jackets and your hair is just flowing, your chest is just pulsing out of your vest, you want to be on a bike. You want to be seen.
So your hair is glistening. You just came from the nail shop, and you're ready to glow.
Exactly. And it goes back to my thought here. The Lost Boys are out and proud. They are not in the darkness. They want to be seen.
So we see this scene where there's flying, and the Paul Blart security guard who has said something to the Lost Boys that he shouldn't have apparently gets eaten, right? I didn't really understand why we actually never see anyone get... This is the first vampire movie where no one is bitten. Everyone just gets pulled away.
Well, how strong are these Lost Boys? That dude was a good 350. They picked him up no problem and ripped the car door off.
I noticed that throughout the movie, Dick, where you saw parts of cars flying off, people being pulled into the sky, but then it seemed like, and we'll get into this a little bit later, when it came down to the battle royale, the epic climax of the movie, those vampire powers didn't seem like much. I was startled at how easy vampires are to kill in this movie.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Although garlic, as we learn, does not work.
That's delicious.
Yeah. So we meet the family. They're moving from Phoenix from what appears to be a very bad breakup, a very bad divorce. Her two sons, Michael is the older brother, and alongside him is Sam, his younger brother. How old are Michael and Sam to you, gentlemen?
I would estimate, looking at the two of them, that Michael is somewhere in his early 30s, and Sam, I'd say is like a young teen, maybe 13 years old.
So Sam is played by Corey Haim, and Michael is played by Jason Patric.
What's the first things he does when he gets to Santa Carla? He does two things. He's looking for a job, and he's pumping iron.
That's right.
Right?
Well, that's what you have to do when you move to California.
You got to straight out rip out those curls. You can't be on the beach looking soft.
If you could see my hair right now, Dick, I've got my full Michael hair going on right now, and I feel like it's really, it projects power, authority, and a certain joie de vivre. But anyway,
I think it's clearly a symbol of virility. I think also that, it doesn't seem like Joel Schumacher liked to cast any unattractive young men. I could picture him cruising the mall and finding the young, hot actor and putting him in there.
So, Dick,
what about you there?
Dick, are you saying that you're attracted to every man in this movie?
I think most of them have some attraction to me. I think Kiefer Sutherland, he looks a little rugged. He looks dangerous. I don't know. Sam, I'm not really attracted to, or the grandfather, but most of the Lost Boys I find quite attractive.
It sounds like someone's putting their stuffed armadillos in their closet.
I secretly, when I was young, I do remember this, watching the movie and thinking how cool it would be to have long hair. But that took way too much dedication, and I just couldn't pull it off.
We're also introducing two other family members of the Michael. We never understand what their last name of the family is, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyway, Sam and Michael's family, aside from their mom, there's also the grandfather, who is a badass. I love the grandfather. My grandfather and the dog Nanook were both my favorite characters in this movie. Grandpa seems to be a little bit senile, but he grows weed out of his kitchen window sill. And the dog Nanook is a Siberian Husky that has, I think, does the most acting, real projection of emotion in this movie. She was the most believable character throughout the whole 90 minutes.
I like Grandpa, even though he sleeps on the porch and pretends like he's dead.
So was he banging the Widow Johnson? Like, was that his?
He was doing it with that eyepiece that he used for taxidermy.
Aha.
He got right up in there with a speculum.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime of the comic relief of the La Cucaracha horn or the Don't Touch My Root Beer, yeah, I'm out.
Gentlemen, do you think that the grandpa character, if we're going to follow along this homosexuality theme, do you think that the grandpa character is really made so likable because he represents good old fashioned straight men and the light, the forces of good?
I think without a doubt he was the force of good. He was a strong guy who was out there taking care of the widows. He had the cool off-road four-wheel drive, like a military vehicle. He had the convertible. He was out in the field putting in like fence posts. He was manly. I think we were supposed to like him and to be drawn to him.
So we're then introduced to what 90% of the movie will be focused around, the Santa Carla Beach boardwalk. Guys, what is the population of Santa Carla?
I don't know, but they're all at the concert.
They're all at this concert.
I want to know what's the breakdown male female. I think it's like 85% male. There's very few women in this town.
Absolutely. I think that I think Star is the only woman I saw in the entire movie, other than Mom. There was just Lucy and Star, and that was it.
Yeah. So performing at this concert, guys, Tim Cappella, who I think was playing the part of Tim Cappella.
Tim Cappella.
Yeah, he is singing and playing the saxophone on the track. I Still Believe. He is shirtless, muscular, oily, and grinding his hips for the audience. His purple skin-tight pants provided eye candy to a mostly male crowd, but Michael's attention starts to drift to the only female in the audience. He shows
you're glossing. You can't. You have to remember the lyrics. Okay, the lyrics are key. You know, I still believe. I still believe. You know, I'll march up the road and I'll go down upon my knees if I need. He's making more than just a statement about believing in something. He's willing to do something.
I want to point out though that to be fair to Tim Cappella, not his song. It's a cover. It was actually originally done by The Call. So they're the ones with the lyrics. He's just passing it along, you know.
Why would you pick this song? You couldn't have covered another song, or did they pick this song just for the sax solo? What was their reasoning?
Well, The Call. Here's a theory: is that The Call is a new wave band from Santa Cruz. So maybe Schumacher was at The Call concert in the 80s in Santa Cruz, and that inspired this entire scene. Although The Call does not have a saxophone.
Did the Call normally play shirtless, and were they comprised of all men?
No, but they did wear a lot of leather, all men, and they wore a lot of leather jackets.
Then I can possibly foresee Joel Schumacher attending one of their concerts. We're also introduced to other characters such as Max, who owns the video store and will come into play later in the movie, and the comic book store that seemingly is allowing two 15 or 16-year-old boys to run the entire operation, the Frog Brothers. So the Frog Brothers guys, they absolutely abhor vampires, which, if we place this into your context, Dick, they possibly also are extremely homophobic. Now,
I think all you have to do is look at the way they're dressed. They're dressed in typical macho 80s male attire, and they're disgusted with what's going on in the boardwalk.
I agree, and also if you look at the Frog Brothers, also Edgar, I believe it is, Corey Feldman's character, talks an octave lower than he absolutely needs to. It's again reinforcing that machismo, that he wants to be very sure that he's a tough guy.
Was Corey Feldman doing a Sylvester Stallone impersonation the entire movie? It was like he was Christian Bale doing Batman, but like a really terrible Christian Bale Batman.
I feel like Corey Feldman only does Corey Feldman impersonations.
Yeah, so Feldman and his brother, who look nothing alike, they go up to Sam, Corey Haim, and they're like, listen, you like this place? You don't like this place. It's full of vampires. Here, you need to read this. Like, is that the first thing you want to do when you see someone, like, right away? Is, like, if they know vampires exist, why aren't they doing something about it? It just seems like they're just playing vampire hunters. They aren't real vampire hunters, right?
Well, but I just thought of this. Possibly the Frog Brothers see Sam. He's dressed flamboyantly. Maybe they sense that he is gay. And much like the corner preacher handing out pamphlets about how Jesus will save, maybe they're not attempting to teach him how to protect his family, but trying to turn him from the dark side.
You know, Dick, when you started off on this theory, I thought it was absolute bullshit. And now I'm coming around on this. I see where you're going with this, and everything plays into it perfectly. I can't think of any counter argument.
So this movie also introduced the idea of half vampire and full vampire. I didn't understand the difference. What was a half vampire versus a full vampire? Gene, go. You're a vampire expert.
It all has to do with when they make their first kill. So when they drink blood, the blood has now entered their bloodstream. It is they have ingested from their sire vampire, and that would make them. Now in classic vampire lore, you have to die in order to become a vampire. It seems that in this case, it's not dying, but rather killing that makes you a full vampire.
So do you think the comic book that they introduced to this actually had those rules?
No.
So, Gene, at what point does a vampire start to have the thirst?
I think that the Lost Boys kept it pretty consistent, which was about within the next day when Michael starts to kind of feel the urge. That's pretty consistent. So in a typical vampire story, and I think you're no stranger to this, Dick, the vampire will die, then come back to life, kind of like in a zombie movie sort of thing. And at that point, it begins. Now, in Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's a more gradual sort of thing. In other depictions, it's instant. But the point being, I think that they got it they hit the nail on the head for this vampire universe, which was, it's about in the next day, you start to feel some changes. Maybe it's kind of a parable for puberty. I don't know.
How soon, how many days does it take before your skin starts to sparkle in the sunlight?
I mean, mine's done that since birth, so I don't know.
Right. Okay.
So if either of you two were going to be recruited by a vampire,
yes.
Do you think David's approach of saying, "How far are you willing to go, Michael?" would that work?
Well, I was telling Raj earlier that I feel like much in those, when you read all those reviews of Top Gun that say, you know what, the true villain in Top Gun is Maverick, and Iceman is actually the good guy. He's playing by the rules. He's doing things right. He's careful and he's cautious, and how Maverick says, yeah, that's right, I'm dangerous. Well, I feel the same way about David and Michael, where I feel like David he's inviting him, and he's inviting him again in the way that a youth of the 80s would invite somebody. There's a dare there. There's a playfulness, right? But he's constantly telling him, be one of us, be a part of us, you are one of us, and just trying to invite him in. And Michael's just a dick.
Yeah. Doesn't Michael hit David straight in the face?
He
he's
crashes
you
his
and me
motorcycle
now.
And then punches him in the face.
You and me now, David. We're doing this. He takes off his shirt. He's ready
just
to go.
You.
Yeah. Just you.
Well,
just you.
Well, he got upset with him because he almost tricked him into driving off the cliff. It seems like every California movie, all the coastline is just giant sheer cliffs.
That's the equivalent of two, men in their, late teens, just frolicking on the beach, pushing each other into the surf, hugging each other, like the montage in Rocky IV between Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa. That's just two guys just doing their thing, right? So David's like, hey, this is just what we do, man. This is just guys being guys. You know what I mean? Let me take you to my secret hideaway.
Michael just might think this is how California guys roll.
Oh, no, I totally think that. David's like a pacifist. He doesn't want to fight, man. He just wants to, he wants to see what you're made out of, see if he can be part of the gang.
I mean, okay, so here's the thing. So imagine this situation. So you meet a guy, you were just chasing, presumably, his woman around.
Oh, yeah.
He then invites you to go out on a motorcycle ride. Mm-hmm. You go on a motorcycle ride. Then you punch him in the face. Then he says, you know what? It's cool. Let's go hang out at my place. You go back to his place. He shows you around, tells you the history of the place, gives you a tour, then gives you a joint, then orders in Chinese food for you, and you're still trying to fuck his girl.
Yeah. What is that about? I mean,
I got a really weird rapey vibe. I would have worried about him that there was just something going on. I would never drink something from a stranger. I would never go to their underground lair. I wouldn't be there.
Cool. It's like an old school resort that fell into the ocean in 1906. It was the most prestigious resort in Santa Carla in the coastal hideaway. I mean, personally, I'm pretty sure that's how you and I met, Gene. That entire the entire montage of me trying to hit on your girl,
right?
Then you invite me out for a motorcycle ride. Then you invite me to your underground lair and make me drink out of some like old school chalice. I don't know what it is. Is it Kool-Aid? Is it blood? I don't know. I don't care. But in the end, we're sucking noodles out of chopsticks. So let me talk about the mind tricks here that are going on, because they feed Michael rice and noodles, and then he's like, "How do you like those maggots, Michael? How do you like those worms? They're worms." So we find out later, Kiefer Sutherland, not the head vampire. How is he able to play mind tricks? What vampire power is that?
Yes. So if you go back into any of the live action role playing games associated with being a vampire,
you mean a LARP?
Yes, either Vampire the Masquerade or any of the White Wolf compendium. Okay, there are powers such as dominate. There's glamour. There's compel. And so vampires do have in the pantheon of these books, games, and lore in that universe, they do have the power of mind control. Now, here's the thing: is again,
how many dice would I have to roll to compel you?
It depends. It depends on your charm. It depends on your charm.
Oh,
so on a 20-sided die for me,
yeah.
I mean, I think I'm pretty easily charmed.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. I'm just a hopeless romantic there, Raj. So, but the thing is that again, if you look at that, it plays in the whole thing again. That I feel like, okay, on one hand, I think that David here is showing that he's a playful lost boy. You know, he's not just a shit sucking vampire. He's also, you know, he's got this playfulness to him, and but also again, if you want to take it a step further, getting into Dick's theory. I mean, again, charming guys, you know, showing a little bit of your what you might call rough trade. It's all part and parcel.
Yeah, I did not see that Kiefer Sutherland's vampire character wanted anything to do with Star. Like there was no jealousy whatsoever. He was not into Star at all, was he, Dick?
No, there was plenty of long gazes between David and Michael, just looking at each other and playfulness, exactly like Gene says.
Not only that, but then they all start chanting, "Michael, Michael, Michael, be one of us, come with us, Michael." There's a dance montage. "Cry Little Sister" keeps playing in the background. And they're hanging from a bridge with a train. Is that something? No, they all dive down, come with us, Michael, and they jump down from each one of them from the train tracks, seemingly into a cloudscape of fog underneath
California coast,
yeah. Right? Where are they jumping to? Like, what is this? Is it water? Are they floating?
They're clearly floating. We see it later on when Michael is turning, that he floats up to the ceiling. They're not flying. They're just kind of hovering.
Okay. So he does that, but then how does he make it home? Do the other vampires fly him home and put him back into bed?
That was one of the most classic music video moments. How many 80s music videos involve somebody falling and then they land in their bed? I think I could count at least 5.
Well, I also asked, did he wake up in bed, or he almost falls into bed? So possibly he makes his way home and we just see him the end of his night. He just lays down into bed.
Yeah.
Or do you believe that the whole night was a blackout, that we don't know what happened?
So that's actually an interesting point, Dick. Now that you mention it, when he gets on the phone with his mom later, she says she points out that this is a repeat occurrence, that it's been night after night that he's been out all night. And so I don't know if this is actually like, you know, it's not just a day that's passed, but this might be several days that have passed.
Anyway, he's back home. He needs sunglasses. He's got a single ear piercing. I don't know if it's on the right one or the left one, but that's what he does. He's also transformed into a vampire. When he heads upstairs, he sees his little brother, Sam, taking a little bubble bath, you know, where Sam's, you know, making little shampoo mohawks, and he's, you know, singing. What was the song that he was singing, Dick?
He's singing "I Ain't Got a Man" while he's doing his hair, and he's having a great old time. And his brother, he can hear him downstairs kind of just struggling, doesn't know what's going on, but he is completely in his Calgon moment. He's relaxing in the tub.
Yeah.
And Michael decides to come and ruin his tranquil moment.
I got one question here. When did it become is he saying I ain't got no man? Because I thought it was I ain't got no home. Did he change the lyrics?
No. The first line is I ain't got a man, I ain't got no home. He is singing both lines.
Holy Moses.
Yeah. So this is also the Oscar-winning scene by the dog Nanook. Immediately senses something's not right with Michael and protects Sam, bites Michael. Michael goes down the stairs and he's got his hand bitten, right? And Sam comes out. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And that's where he notices that Sam is starting to do a Back to the Future disappearing act in the mirror.
That might have been inspired by, because I think that Back to the Future scene, the photo scene where he's fading, was so ingrained in the American psyche at that point that's how you show that person fading from identity or
like you're halfway through a transformation
there. Now that led to my favorite quote of the entire movie that I referenced a little bit before. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. You wait till mom finds out, buddy. Delivered perfectly written. If I have to watch an hour and 37 minutes of this movie just for that scene, I'm good with it. And it totally made up for the hokey mirror scene that was, absolutely dumb and unnecessary.
Well, so Michael immediately runs to Star because he's disappearing. He doesn't know what's happening to him, and he needs to figure out, this thing that's happening to him. So he runs to Star. Star doesn't explain anything to him.
Nothing.
She doesn't say, "I'm a vampire too. I'm half vampire." They just
but she has no problem having sex with him.
No, right
she
away.
won't tell him a secret, but let's have sex.
And also, I imagine that what Michael's going through is basically the worst hangover of your life. I don't know if you've ever tried to have sex on a hangover. Nope. It's not happening. You get rewarded with the worst headache ever and usually vomit somewhere.
And he's got that bloody hand. Oh, he's probably smearing it on the bed, on Star's back. It's a damn horror show.
Did Cry Little Sister play throughout the entire sex scene again?
Every movie. If throughout this movie, you're either hearing Cry Little Sister or In Excess or the Doors cover.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Cry Little Sister when they're banging. Where's the kid? Where's the 9-year-old boy?
He's under the bed about to vamp out.
Yeah, totes.
No, but he's not a 9-year-old boy.
Right.
He's a 10-year-old boy. He's been a vampire for a year. It's much better for a 10-year-old boy.
So why are half vampires allowed to be out at during the day? Are they don't burn, they don't flame out, right? Because they're not full vampires.
Right.
All right, so the vampires have to feed according to according to the lore of this movie. Until you feed, you're only a half vampire. So are we to believe that Star has not fed yet?
She makes it clear that she hasn't yet. And
neither has the little boy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Star says that David had chosen to have Michael be her first.
Got it.
Which she didn't want to do. So she is not yet turned, and also the child is not yet turned. Which I think is a dick move. Go out. If you do not go no half measures. You're either going to be a vampire or you're not. Don't go in between. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fucking, this is also right after they bang. Max is on a date with the mom. Max comes over. Max is the boss of the mother and the boardwalk video rental store's manager, owner. I don't know.
He's the owner of the video store. I want to ask you two gentlemen. Watching it now, was it obvious that Max was the big bad?
Okay, so here's the thing, is that there were some dead giveaways. One was, again, and this is not, and again, I tried to go into it with an open mind. I already knew the secret at this point because I knew it since childhood. But anyway, in watching it, when the vampires come into the video store and he tells them to leave, and they just leave. They don't really resist at all. But the biggest give is on that first date when he comes over, and he says that he wants to see the. Is it okay to see the dinner? before they eat or whatever, and she's like,
it's not like wife seeing the groom seeing the bride before they're
and he's like, oh, of
dressed.
course, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Like, it's a total.
Why does he want to see the dinner beforehand, though?
She is the dinner.
Oh, she's the dinner.
Right.
I totally missed all that.
See?
Aha.
So he goes, is it bad luck to see the meal before dinner?
Right.
And she goes, don't you mean, oh, I think you mean the bride before the wedding. He goes, oh, is that what I meant? That makes sense.
So Gene, you're hypothesizing that Max wants to convert the mother or eat her.
Well, it's one and the same.
This is the only time that there's an allusion to he will bite her and she will turn.
Yeah, they totally missed the mark on this movie about, and you pointed out before, on vampire bites. Kind of a critical part of vampire lore.
Right.
You don't just fly around and clutch people. You gotta bite them.
Yeah.
And again, the ball's on Michael coming in with a flesh wound into a vampire den. Like, hey guys, what's going on?
Let me bang you, please. That's what turned her on so much, is the smell of the blood.
Yeah, and this date night could not go any worse.
Yeah. Well, all right. So guys, I don't understand. The Frog Brothers have an elaborate plan to where they're going to try, and they think that Max is the head vampire, right? They've been in this town for a while. They're going to trick him by saying garlic is Parmesan and then trying to show his reflection in a mirror. Both the reflection, like he has a reflection in the mirror, and garlic has nothing, like it has no adverse effects upon him. Why?
Simple explanation, I guess. I'm the de facto vampire expert here. He was invited in.
Aha.
Once you invite a vampire in, then all the rules are out the window.
But if you're invited into the house, it seems like that negates all of your weaknesses.
Yes, exactly.
So how does he burst into flames and combust?
Yeah, I think what happened to Max was that one of those beams that Grandpa was carving, one of those pyres, actually, like, that pike went through his body, and then he also landed into a fire. So it was like a combination of like the worst shit that could happen to a vampire, and that's what did it. But also, all the vampires were super easy to kill in this movie,
right? Well,
I think it would be difficult to stick a chopstick through your hand, let alone a 12-inch circumference fence post. What would it take to stick that through somebody's chest?
There is the theory that in zombie movies and vampire movies, because they are the undead, that basically their central cavity is pretty soft. I don't understand it, and if it was the case, why would they not wear like body armor of some sort to protect them? I mean, Underworld, as cheeseball as that series is, the vampires are like, hey, let's protect our chests and our necks because that's how you kill us, decapitating us and putting a stake through the heart.
And you would definitely practice better motorcycle safety. You have to wear a helmet. You'd have to be wearing some kind. A small spill on the beach, boosh, right. You just burst into flames.
Before the whole end scene, the fight scene, the climax of the movie, I think by far the most pivotal scene is the vampire night out with the boys.
Yep, David's got finally Michael out. He's going to get him to go full. I felt this is some of my strongest material on what's really going on. Throughout the movie, we see the Lost Boys hunting. We only see them attack one woman in the beginning when they rip the top of the roof off of the car. She seems to just be collateral damage. They seem to enjoy hunting only male victims. And David keeps telling me, he said, Michael, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. It's time for you to join us. You have to feed. Michael, become one of us. Am I reading into this wrong, or were there only male victims? But there's not one single female that we see them attack.
I think we've established, though, that Santa Carla is 85% men. So, I mean, maybe it's just straight statistics.
So it's a numbers game, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and if you kill the women, you won't have any boy child.
Yeah,
to hunt later.
I also watched the movie with subtitles on. There was a name for the apparent gay orgy that was going on in the fire out by the beach. They were the surf Nazis, as they were all dancing around to Aerosmith and Run DMC's collaboration, Walk This Way. Like, walk this way, we're all together because we love each other.
Got it.
Like, more than friends. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Sure.
Yeah, so anyway, they feed the surf Nazis. Michael decides not to eat, not to become. I think he's struggling. He goes back and he's trying to, he's like, Sam, you know who I am. Like, you're my brother. Like, Star shows up with the little kid and they decide that they're going to fight the power.
You're missing this.
What am I missing?
He comes home after watching. He's in the tree. He sees the man-on-man feeding. He doesn't just run away. He stays and watches.
Yeah. What is code for man-on-man? Hold on. What is code for man-on-man feeding? Like, what is that?
No, this was an all-man buffet, okay? So it was carnage, but man-on-man just ripping each other open. He watches for a bit and then goes home. He sits down with Sam, and he says to him, he says, I now know who I am, Sam. He's at a revelation about who he is. He's not saying, oh, you know, what happened? It was terrible. He doesn't mention that there was just a massacre at the beach that he watched. He's had an epiphany. He's come out with who he is. And right when this is happening, that he's coming out, who's there to save him but Star? Star comes up to save him. Does Sam want to see Star? No. Star is a threat to Michael coming over to the homosexual side. So Sam is doing everything he can to keep the windows closed, keep her out. But Star gets in. And Michael says, you know where David took me tonight? Star knows what's going on. And he says, I'm now just like David. I'm just like him now. And she says, no, you're not like him. There's still hope. You can come back.
So are you saying you can't come back from that?
What Star is saying to him, it's not too late. And the reason it's not too late is because Michael has not had his first kill or his first taste. He has not yet been with another man. So it is not too late.
I think you hit on something very interesting there, Dick, is that look at how many times Michael has the opportunity to kind of pull the ripcord, hit that ejector seat. He could have said, I don't want to go on this motorcycle ride. He could have said, I don't want to come to your lair. He could have said, I don't want to drink this. He could have said, I don't want to hang out with you guys. I don't want to go to the bridge. I don't want to watch you with your eat surf Nazis. Basically, there's a million times where he could have said no. And he continues to go back. And then again, when we get kind of toward the end there, when he revolts against the other vampires, it's a betrayal, I think, in a sense, because he's given them every indication that he's pretty cool with all this until the end, you know?
Yeah. I think he's completely misleading David. David thinks he's done a successful recruitment. He's got another hot young guy to join the Lost Boys. You know, he is using them to get the free booze, to hang out with Star. He's a user. He's not genuinely interested.
Yeah, I think David's the real victim in this whole movie, right? Like he was turned by the head vampire. Spoiler, turns out to be Max. Max is the fucking head vampire, right? You know, and David is like his number 2 guy, and David's like doing everything he can. Like David's recruited a nice gang of men to go around and eat other men. And he's picked up another nice, young, attractive male to join their coven and hang out and you know swing underneath the rafters in caves out by the beach, and he gets betrayed by his own friend.
And I think we see that Michael's next move happens a lot of times when we will see whether they're religious leaders who come down hard on the homosexual community, and then later on it's found out that they were actually closeted themselves. What does Michael do now that he's had this temptation? Instead of internalizing it, he decides to lash out at the group that has tempted him. He immediately goes into, I'm going to destroy them. Damn them for tempting me. I'm going to go to their lair and I'm going to teach them. I'm going to finish them. To me, that rings that this temptation hit close to home and he has to go destroy it instead of dealing with it.
Well, it's not. It's Sam. It's Sam and the Frog Brothers. This seemed like terrible slapstick comedy. Like, did they try to be funny?
Weapons
in the whole scene?
check.
Yeah. Gun check. Stabby stab check.
Well, when you look at it, though, I mean, Michael tells Sam, Sam's like, I got connections, and he makes a phone call to the Frog Brothers, to get this all going. But Michael doesn't have to show them where the lair is.
No.
He doesn't have to take them. So, I mean, he is complicit in this attack on the lair.
Yeah.
Well, he has to attack the lair. It's the only way to end his temptation.
Is he doing it for himself, or is he doing it to save Star and Laddie? Because
he's doing it for himself. He's doing it for himself.
So he won't feel this way
point
anymore. He's like, if they're out of my life, I won't be tempted anymore, and I can just sleep with this girl that you gave me and drink all your wine and your Chinese food in your underground lair.
Yes,
yeah,
Gene
I
said
get it. He's very
said
selfish.
it perfectly. He has many chances to walk away, but he's drawn to the lifestyle. He can't walk away, so he has to destroy it.
He has to kill.
He has no problem killing David.
So is he now a vampire because he's killed? Or does he have to suck blood? Or suck blood. Something else?
Yeah, it's not a question of getting a kill that turns you into the vampire. You have to suck his blood.
Yeah.
So he's drank the blood, which means he's tempted towards the side, but he's not yet been solo with another male victim. So now we go into the Frog Brothers, and the Frog Brothers lead the most inept attack ever. For two gentlemen who pride themselves on being vampire experts, they go into the lair making a shitload of noise with flashlights, just shining around and screaming. Do they think this is covert? How do the vampires not wake up?
The 1980, was it 89 or 88 movie, The Monster Squad, was a more realistic depiction of how to hunt monsters than this movie.
I don't think that they were trying to be realistic in this case. It was supposed to be, this is a horror comedy.
No, it is not a horror comedy.
It is a horror comedy.
No, this is a music video that lasts for way too long for Cry Little Sister. That's what this fucking movie is.
There's no way that Joel Schumacher and crew went through and said, hey, you know what would be a really realistic way to kill a vampire? A water gun. You know what would be a really realistic way to kill a vampire? Have these guys go into a church with canteens and fill them full of holy water. It's supposed to be funny.
This movie was not funny whatsoever. Did you laugh at all?
I laughed several times.
No, there was unintentional humor. Like, are they trying to make it laugh? Like, is this trying to be funny? Like, it is terrible. It is the worst.
You didn't chuckle when they walked into a church.
No.
During a wedding, I think it was, and they filled their canteens full of holy water.
Listen, I was slightly offended because I'm Catholic. That's, your
religion is actually seen as the only one that is actively capable of killing a vampire.
I know, and they shat all over it.
Nah.
Obviously, at the end of this movie, there's a huge fight. We've already talked about it at great lengths. Michael uses his vampire powers to kill David. He shoves him into a very phallic-looking antler. But before all of this, there's exploding toilets with blood. It's coming out. What in the right minds was Joel Schumacher thinking?
It turned into straight slapstick. It turned into holy water with water pistols, exploding toilets shooting some kind of goo, a vampire being killed and then slammed into a stereo that then explodes. What the hell kind of stereo was that? And is that a new way to kill vampires?
Okay, so this isn't about the most efficient way to kill vampires. This isn't about the most realistic way to kill vampires. This is about cool-ass ways to kill vampires. You got a vampire being impaled on horns. You got a vampire being exploding through a stereo, which is freaking awesome. And then you've got, I think my favorite was, exploding toilet vampire, which was just great because it was like they dump him in the thing and you're like, oh, wow, that's a good way to kill a vampire. Just throw him into holy water. Wrong. He will fuck all your plumbing up.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
How many canteens would it have taken to fill that bathtub up with holy water?
Okay, I thought about this. I did a little math. It's actually, I think what happened there was that they actually just mixed regular water with the holy water.
So it only needs a little bit.
They diluted the water.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I think you need full on. You can't use diluted. Then you're just half holy water or a fraction of holy water. Like at the most, it probably would have given him some skin rash.
Right.
He
didn't die on contact. It took a while. He had to get kung fu kicked by Nanook.
That is true. How about Nanook coming through with the kung fu Bruce Lee dropkick.
I like that Nanook knows enough to know that a bite is going to kill a vampire. I've got to kick him.
Yeah, into the holy water.
Yeah.
Nanook is the smartest character in this movie.
And the best looking.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to see a Nanook versus Thorn battle royale. You know, like Nanook versus the Hellhound.
I think Roger just endorsed dogfighting. I think is just what just happened here.
Did I
we
just
got a Michael
Vick?
Vick situation? Yes, you straight did.
All right.
You were encouraging
a dogfight.
Us to have a dogfight.
Guys, speaking of dogfighting, Michael then has to fight Max.
No.
What?
We can't go here yet. No, not yet. And I have a question here for Gene. Again, he's the vampire expert. We have to know. We know that Michael has not yet had his first kill. He has not gained all of his powers. Right. How does he, in this final showdown with David, convert over, eyes change, the ability to fly? He seems to have all the powers, but he's not made his first kill.
I absolutely lost my shit during this part of the movie. I was so angry about the fact that he didn't have to outsmart him. He didn't have to pull out a last-ditch effort. He didn't have help from friends. You could have written this scene a million different ways that explain how a newbie vampire who's not full vampire, who has never made a kill against a leader of a vampire pack, and vampires don't just give you leadership. You got to earn that shit. How he just takes him and full on just... Other than pumping weights earlier in the movie, I don't know how he got the strength to he just out-muscled him into a fucking antler. Knows how to fly suddenly and is okay at it. He's actually there is no explanation for that. It makes no sense. Can we talk about just the cinematic decision, the old school Playhouse spotlight thing that happens every time David is in a corner somewhere? There's just this light mysteriously shining right on his face. I love it. I love it. It's cheese as hell, but just the fact that Kiefer Sutherland really seemed to enjoy having that spotlight right on his face and just making weird faces.
That's right.
So Max here, he's outed as the head, and I was curious as to, he says that only David knew that he was the head vampire. How's that happen? How's it go down that only he knows that? Did the gang not get that memo? How do you keep that a secret?
I mean, that actually makes sense, right? So it's like a consigliere. Like, so you have David, he enjoys the illusion that he's the head vampire. So he gets to have, call the shots. To everyone else, they look up to him when in fact he's not. So Max has insulated himself from prosecution, so to speak. He's not a target, right? And at the same time, David gets to live out this fantasy of being the lead vampire. It makes perfect sense.
I also have a problem with, I think, what Max's motivation is here. And I think it goes to my overall theme of homosexuality. Max says that he wanted to pull the mom into the fold to create a family. He said, without a mother and without a family, boys run wild and boys act up. His objective to bring her in is to have a strong female role model to hopefully get his boys to start acting right. Does he mean behaving, or does he mean come back into the traditional nuclear family? Mother, father, children? Am I wrong? Am I just reading too much?
Now, here's the question. Is Max a representation of homosexuality, or is he a representation of a backlash? I mean, in the sense that do you think that he is also a part of that construct, that homosexual construct?
I think Max is not. Even though his lost boys have been killed, he still wants Lucy. So I think that clearly shows where he goes on that. I think he's heterosexual, and he still wants Lucy. He would have said, you know what, Lucy's gone, my boys are gone, it doesn't matter, I'm going to kill you anyway.
So
she gives in. She's weak.
Right away. And so he's about to bite her, in busts manly grandpa, saves the day with a truck. Max explodes in the fireplace, and the vampire threat is ended. Are there more groups than just Max? Is Max the only head vampire?
No, I think we know how many vampires there are by Grandpa. Grandpa says that the one thing he could never stomach about Santa Carla is all the vampires. And we only see, a handful, 6 or 7? That's not a lot of vampires. So there has to be more out there. The movie closes with a cover of People Are Strange.
Yep.
If you Google the word, strange, queer is also a description for strange or odd. Is this just coincidence?
Absolutely not.
I mean, strange also is slang for a vagina, though. Just for the record.
So is Veruca Salt.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going slang. I'm going straight Webster's.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that it's that outlandish a theory, especially when you look at the original idea for the movie. Much more G-rated. Star was a boy. Like, there's a lot of what seems like very, very specific twists that they had to be done with a purpose, right? Like, and they weren't done to make it more mainstream palatable at all. So in that sense, like, I mean, who knows?
So at the end of the day, I think we all need to give our Shat scale rating, which, Gene, if you haven't listened before, we do a wipe scale. So a 0 wipes when you take a Shat would mean it's like it's like a perfect movie. There's no wipes needed. All the way to 5 wipes, meaning this is the worst piece of, ever. Like, I've basically gone to a Mexican buffet after the food has expired and all there is to eat is green chili pork tamales. And they're way past.
5 is a horror show.
5 is a harsh, like, you have just bought 24 rolls of toilet paper and you need 25.
You just threw a vampire into a bathtub full of holy water. And
right.
Your toilet is exploding.
It's exploding everywhere. Right. That's 5 wipes. So I'll start with you as our guest. How many wipes does this movie take to get off your ass?
Gentlemen, I think it's no secret. I think I made it pretty clear throughout this entire episode that The Lost Boys is among my favorite movies. It played a huge role in my life. Absolutely love it. And I would love to give it a 1 wipe. But I do concede that there are some issues there. Although it's in the vein of the Goonies and the Ghostbusters, sort of that quality of movie to me would be a 1 wipe. I'm sitting probably at a square 3. I highly recommend it. Watch it, but don't expect too much from it. It's trying to straddle that odd line between horror and comedy in a highly homoerotic 80s fashion.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm torn. Traditionally, we say, was it a good movie? Was it a bad movie? Was there problems? I think this is clearly a flawed movie with some execution that left a lot to be desired, but yet still I enjoyed it. Then also would I watch it again? And yes, I would watch it again. So I think I have to agree with you, Gene. I'm going to go 3 wipes. It's not a perfect movie. But if it were on TV, I would sit down and watch it. I would recommend it to others. And I think now with the lens of my take on it, it makes it even more enjoyable. So I'm going to go 3.
Guys, this is the worst movie we've seen thus far. I hated every bit of watching this. I would never watch it again. I would never recommend it unless we were in Guantanamo Bay and I was hoping to torture enemies of the state. This is a 4 wipe movie for me. It's not quite the worst, but it's pretty up there. So 4 wipes for me.
I think that's clearly a reflection of your intolerance.
My intolerance for expired pork green tamales.
So you're telling me you would rather watch Weird Science?
Yes, all day long. All day long.
You need to go
Weird
listen to that.
Science is a far superior movie than
Weird
this.
Science was written in 2 days.
I don't care.
Garbage.
Weird Science could be written in 30 minutes. It would still be better than this schlock that Joel Schumacher fed me.
Weird Science did it have Tim Cappella?
I believe
that alone. That scene alone, it inspired John Hamm, Sergio. It inspired Sexy Sax Man.
If you want to get a good laugh, go to our Facebook page at Facebook Shat the Movies, and you will see a beautiful remix done of the I Believe video sequence, which does the full song. It takes a little liberty with some of the cuts and some of the zooms, but it is fantastic and is posted right now on our Facebook page, and it's riveting. You can't take your eyes off of it, and you want to share it with your friends. So
Gene and Dick, you both gave this 3 wipes. I gave it 4. So that is a combined median score of 3.3.
Wow, you sounded confident. Yes, you are correct.
All right. 3.3 wipes. That is the final rating scale for this movie. Do yourself a favor. Please don't wipe, or please don't watch this movie, or you will have to wipe your ass for quite some time. Big D, if people are listening to this podcast and want to get involved, how can they find us?
The biggest way and the fastest way that we can grow our audience is tell a friend. Sure, you can go to all of our social media channel, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But if you have a friend who loves the 80s, loves the 90s, if you want to start a conversation about, was The Lost Boys about vampires or homosexuality? In Pretty Woman, was it about prostitution and drug use and what's romance? There's nothing better than starting the conversation. So please tell a friend and start talking.
Also, if you're interested in catching The Lost Boys on the big screen, Harkins Theaters will be showing it on the big screen on October 4th. There are multiple showtimes and multiple locations. So if you haven't had a chance, if we'd inspired you to watch it or you just want to see it again in all its cinematic glory, there it is.
You can follow us on our social media pages. We're at Shat the Movies on Instagram and Twitter, and just search Facebook for Shat the Movies. If you want to write in, we're at hosts at shatthemovies.com. And make sure you go to our website, hosts at shatthemovies.com, to vote on our next movie review. But until then, Big D, what would you say if your friends were going to the Harkins 9 o'clock showing of The Lost Boys on October 4th?
Well, I would normally say leave a space between you and your friends, but for Lost Boys, I think it's completely acceptable and encouraged to sit directly next to your buddy. And I want to sit next to Gene, and I want to sit next to you. So let's all go. Shat the Movies.
Change